8:21, welcome back to Breakfast Television. Well, the snow caught a lot of us by surprise this week, even though Andy was forecasting for it. Kath, you were saying this weekend you need to do something. You need to get out in the garden. But before we get to that, Thanksgiving's upon us.
Yes,
You've got some great ideas to make your home welcoming.
I look at my front porch and I go, oh. In fact, I was shoveling the snow on, what day, Tuesday? Muttering. And I was looking at the pumpkins I'd left out front, and I was looking at my arrangement on the doorstep and thinking, oh, it looks really welcoming. I hope it doesn't freeze hard because it'll go mushy. But right. I just think there's still time for some greenery, and everything in this arrangement will do well in the cold.
Okay.
The mums will go to -10 without falling apart.
Really?
The ivy just thrives in cool weather. In fact,
I thought that would just all turn brown.
No, I keep it in my unheated garage all winter and then just transplant them out, and they keep going. And I put an ornamental kale in because they look so good, and they actually will stay October, November, December, -20, and they'll be still there.
Wow.
And I reseeded a bunch of kale this fall so that I'll have it next spring. Smart. And then little gourds and a little bit of corn, and it just says welcome.
Right. Well, you want to you're having family and friends over for dinner.
That's right, exactly.
So this is the weekend, the snow is melting, and you're saying you got to get out there, not only with the cleanup, because the snow is coming again, but there's something you should be planting this week.
Well, we should be getting if you've got any bulbs to do or anything like that, you should get them in, and it's garlic time. The garlic likes to be planted in the cold, and it needs to get out there. I get it out right away, and when I first take my garlic and use it, you will note that even sitting dormant in my cupboard, it's getting a little bit of a root on it. Mm-hmm. And this is its time of year when it does that. And these are hardneck garlic, which are readily available. And you should be able to just tap them, and they'll come apart, and you plant the individual cloves.
So you don't plant the whole thing?
No, you plant one clove only.
Okay.
And so you want to do that. And then tulips, daffodils, there's some fabulous bulbs out there. It's time. And I always use a measure to show and tell. I tell everyone that the garlic should be down at least 4 inches.
Okay.
And then you put a little bit of, yes, it says ant killer, but it's diatomaceous earth, which is a sandy, gritty, and it stops the slugs from going in. Do that with all your bulbs, because they regard bulbs as a hotel.
And what does this do to...
It cuts up their skin. Oh. It's a little bit of easy vengeance in my mind after what they do. And then doing groupings of bulbs. And I plant in uneven numbers. If I'm going to plant my tulips, I plant 3s and 5s or 7s. I don't do rows. I'm not big on soldiers. And you plant them bottom side down, up. Because if you plant them pointed side, they spend all of the spring trying to grow up and around the bulb, and they never flower.
So pointy side up. Up.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
And there's some wonderful tulips that naturalize and just keep coming back. And they're incredible. So there's loads of them.
Do you do the tulips the same as garlic, 4 inches
I try to
below?
go 8 inches.
8 inches?
Yeah, because these particular tulips are a bit taller, so I want them to spend part of the spring growing up and staying underground, and then they'll come up mid-season. Everything, when you look at labels on the packaging, it'll tell you when they're going to flower and how long they're going to flower for. So I'm looking for early season for some things like my muscari, but my tulips, I want them mid-season to late season, because that way you've got this perennial garden that flowers all through, right into June, when the rest of the garden becomes glorious. And don't forget some fertilizer.
Right.
Yes.
Some great tips. Kath Smyth, thank you so much for joining us, and get out there and plant this weekend.
That's
Who knew?
right.